So please just give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
You want to introduce yourself first? You are? Introduce yourself first.
Oh, right, okay. No, you're introducing me. We've rehearsed this, obviously.
We have. Yeah, so thankfully, I'm going to say very little, actually, and Andrew's going to do, somehow I've really lucked in, Andrew's going to do 99% of the talking. So this started off with, well, it's just interesting. I'm Gary Green. I actually work for Infinity Works as a consultant, and I've been working with Andrew for about a year now as a head of delivery for a tribe within NHS Digital.
I'm Andrew Mayer. I'm Director of the Digital Delivery Centre, and I'll talk a little bit about the journey of the Digital Delivery Centre, where it came from, in the next 60 minutes.
So this chat came out of, about 12 months ago, I was asked by Infinity Works to go and actually do some work with NHS Digital, and I was kind of sort of quite concerned about it, because I expected public sector, and I didn't know what public sector delivery was going to be like. But actually, what I found actually genuinely astonished me, having worked in a lot of fintechs in the commercial sector for quite some time, actually, it was so dramatically different from what I thought it would be. So I've asked Andrew really to come along today and talk about his journey and to take us through some of the things he's been through and where he's going.
So it's really interesting when Gary said to me, let's do a talk together. Little did I know that that was his talk, and he's now left me with the rest of it.
By the way, who's won the Jeremy Clarkson Dresser-like competition out of us?
Okay, thanks, Gary. So thanks very much, everybody, for turning up. So NHS IT HQ, a place where people still walk around in dark suits, not in a hipster way. Mainframe is still king, and agility is how fast you can feed that punch tape into the reader. So that's what it is. There's the office environment, and you can't see any Kanban boards there or any scrums taking place, but at least they've got plenty of space. Is that your perception of NHS IT? Stuart, was that your perception of IT? So I'm sorry, I'm picking on people before they pick on me, because I've got some hecklers in the crowd. So I'm best to put my front foot forward first. So is that what you expected before you came to work?
No. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know how. I've not seen your presentation, so I don't know what you're going to say. But having heard about the fact that this project was outsourced to a big third-party company like BT, and you're going to redevelop it yourselves, and a lot of people at BT thought, oh, that's never going to happen. And we've heard about it being, there were lots of servers involved in those days, lots of Unix servers, and it was being redeveloped on a laptop. And we just thought, oh, well, we're going to have a go, but it's not really going to work. It's not really going to fly. And we'll end up going back to BT and it'll stay there.
Okay, so that was, heard Gary's perception of this dull grey place, Stuart's view that actually it was a place where they've just taking on more than they can actually chew. And actually, I mean, that's a really, really good point, because I'm not sure that then we knew what we were taking on. We had some ideas, but sorry, this section's about the perception of NHS IT and the environments. So actually, it's not like that. So carrying on a theme, let's just play a quick game. And those people that work in NHS Digital are not allowed to answer this question whatsoever. Looking at those icons there, tell me which one's the odd one out. NHS?
Lean startup, not startup.
Okay. Hands up for NHS. 1, 2. Okay. The answer is actually Oracle. So we had Oracle. It was all pervasive across NHS IT. In fact, it was a bespoke version of Oracle. So Oracle built a version just for the NHS. Hellishly expensive, terrible to change. Today, we do all those things. We use all those technologies, we use all those approaches, and it's a different place. So what's it really like? So this is one of the floors in Whitehall. We've had walls specifically built for collaboration, including the sharks. And you can see that it's a really collaborative place, an engaging place for people to work. These are not set up pictures.
These were all taken on the same day, just me wandering around with the camera for half an hour.
So one of the things that I wanted to point out, the gold plate is on the wall, and that has specific meaning. You don't gold plate anything within our environment because the gold plate is already on the wall. There's no need to. We want to get to something that is deliverable and adding value as soon as we possibly can. In terms of the environment, I said it was a shark, it's actually an orca whale, but I wasn't picked up on that. Why is it there? Nobody knows, but they appeared and they've become the mascot of the Digital Delivery Centre. And between tribes, they get stolen and put in very strange places, which has caused some friction between some of the tribes in the past. One tribe is called Thunderbird 3. That's what they chose. I had a competition of building Thunderbird 3 models. So it's not all about work. It's about enjoying yourself at work and doing something different. So don't take my word for it. I've got a short video. It was a very long video until Gary edited it. But these are some of the views of some of the people at work.
The office environment here is really interesting. My background, I was always in digital agencies, and there was always a perception that the public sector is really stuffy. And I've been very pleasantly surprised that actually it's not like that at all. I think the really key part is that the things we do make a real difference and can actually save lives.
And so my job these days is much more about understanding what are the things that we need to bring into the service, making them real and realising them for customers and delivering good value. So it's a very different kind of a role now, and it's very exciting because I can go from an idea to a thing that has value very, very quickly.
The office environment at NHS Digital is brilliant. We've got access to multiple different open plan areas and quiet areas to work in, and there's a real feeling of close collaboration when you need it. Areas we can share thoughts, whiteboard sessions and things like that, and quiet areas where we can kind of just get on with some work.
I think the best thing is just scale of the things that we deal with, like the products that we build are huge. The environment which we deliver them into is huge. The volume of data that we deal with is enormous, and the complexity of the types of things we have to do is really hard, so it just provides a really big challenge.
I think the good thing about this office environment is that we work collaboratively and we are allowed and supported to take decisions and take responsibility for the work we do.
The environment's really collaborative, so we have a lot of collaborative desks and a lot of collaborative spaces in which we can talk and do things like analysis on walls and whiteboards and windows. It's very dynamic, quite fast-paced. My favourite thing is that it's non-hierarchical, so no matter what banding or job you are, you can input your ideas and they'll be relevant and they'll be valid and listened to.
Right, so hopefully you've taken at least 3 things away from that short video. First is, it's not a stuffy environment, it's lots of people working together, collaborating. They talk about complexity and value. That was mentioned quite a lot, as well as collaboration. And the third thing is, filmmakers, we are not. So apologies for that, but we felt it was quite important to show you what the environment was like. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what do we do in this environment. So some of you may have heard of a system called the National Spine. The Spine is made up of 4 main components. First is demographics service that has 80 million patient records. It's a longitudinal record, so that's from cradle to grave. Actually, I think it's probably more than over 80 million now. Has other flags in it for child protection purposes and other things as well. Has a summary care record that is a summary of meds, allergies, adverse reactions. There are 60 million of those, and one of those is looked at every 6 seconds. Can hold other information as well, but that's agreed between you and your GP. So things like end-of-life care plans are included. Electronic prescription service that sends prescriptions electronically from your GP to your nominated pharmacy, so you don't have to go back to your GP. You can go straight to the pharmacy and pick it up. And messaging exchange, also known as mesh. You can see this more as a Dropbox for health. So it can support messaging from a person to another person, from a system to another system. In the main, it's pathology messages going from taking blood results back to the GP. And that's then protected on the outside by the authentication service, identification and access management. There are 1.3 million smart cards out in the NHS. So based on your role, you put your smart card into a laptop or a PC, put your PIN in, and it will give you access to certain information on the spine based on your role. At any one point in the day, there are 300,000 concurrent connections into Spine, and there are 28,000 endpoints. There are some other services around that, but I won't talk about those just yet. Okay, so how did we start? So hopefully you've seen that Spine is big, it's complicated, and it's difficult to change. We were in a position where a 10-year contract was coming to an end, and we had to do something about it. There was an absolute deadline. We weren't allowed to extend that contract any further. So the date was the date. I'm sure you've all heard that one before and been up against it yourselves. So one of the key things about Spine is that it had become really critical to the NHS. So just to give you an example, the demographic service under BT at one point slowed down. That resulted in queues outside A&E, longer queues than usual. To one extent, they had to close one of the A&E departments in Birmingham because it got that bad. So that's how impactful Spine is on, and that's how important it is on the NHS. So, no interruption to live service. We had to have a seamless transition from the old system to whatever came next. We also had to migrate 1.5 billion records. Yes, that's an interesting thing when you're sort of migrating from an Oracle environment into a NoSQL environment. So clinical safety, you had to be assured. So, you know, clinicians are making decisions based on the information that's held in Spine. We had to work collaboratively with the incumbent supplier. So that was a challenge sometimes. We certainly had our moments on both sides, I think. I think, you know, there were times where I think we were being awkward, and there were times when they were being awkward. We're best friends now. And finally, reduce the running costs of the Spine. So, given that, what could possibly go wrong? Well, this is a list I got from Wikipedia, and it's a list of all the failed projects that have been noted in Wikipedia. And if you see the one slap bang in the middle is the one for the National Programme for IT, which failed according to Wikipedia, and failed to the extent of £2.3 billion. That was just for around the spine. So, you know, we were in a position where things were against us. So what we decided to do was actually do something ourselves. We decided to move away from that big integrator and bring it in-house. So this is what BT said about Spine One, and this is still on BT's website. It was last time I checked, November last year I checked. So, according to BT, it had made transformational healthcare applications available to 1.3 million NHS healthcare staff across England, providing care to circa 50 million UK citizens. The last bullet point, the contract was and continues to be one of the largest IT programs in the world, consuming over 15,000 man-years of effort to date, and over 3,000 servers are hosted and supported. So, big. So what does this sort of success look like? Thanks for mixing my slides up. This sort of success is £30 million of up to £30 million of transition costs, £50 million to keep the lights on. It is absolutely stable when not touched. And we used to get a release probably every 12 months. And we were lucky if we didn't have to roll something back. Fair, Stuart?
I disagree with that last one. Let's discuss it at the pub.
Right, okay, well, let's discuss it at the pub. Okay. So that's where we were. That's where we were. Oops. So the point was, let's do something different. Let's not use a big IS provider to do the same old thing. Actually, I did go out and went to the marketplace and started speaking to the likes of IBM and some of the other big suppliers. And because the cost of Spine One was in the public domain, So Spine 1 cost about £750 million. Big suppliers were going, oh, 750, that was 10 years ago. So, do you know what? It must be about £1 billion today. Yeah? That's the sort of conversations that we were having. So, one thing we'd learned was actually making predictions is really, really hard. If the answer's big and expensive, then let's reframe the question. We've got to take responsibility ourselves as well. So no longer are we able to phone people like BT and say, it's broken, please can you fix it? Actually, the responsibility and the accountability is always with us, no matter where it is. So let's bring it in-house and have real responsibility for it. And actually, replacing Spine doesn't have to why do people do that? So replacing Spine doesn't have to take an inevitable path. So we don't have to do the same thing. So our CTO at the time, we persuaded him eventually to go along with the insourcing of Spine. And his view was, actually, that's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different outcome. Let's do something different. Let's bring it in-house. Let's take an agile approach to delivery. Let's use open source technology. And let's move away from Oracle. Let's go to NoSQL. Do you know what? That's what we did. People thought we were absolutely mad. Absolutely mad. You are taking this responsibility on yourselves. Yes, but it's got to be better than what we've got now. Over time, we did do things differently. So, rebuild NHS Spine Services in-house, stand up an end-to-end service operation. So if we build it, we've actually got to run it as well. So let's not forget about that. Use open source software and use an agile approach to delivery. And we did it. It made people scared. It made them angry. It made them very angry. People are still angry. People still say to me today, it was the wrong thing to do. But we did it. Spinecor went live in August 2014. The Care Identity Service and SUS went live in February 2015, 3 years ago this very night. We're not actually sure, but it sounds good when you're talking, doesn't it? So the third one, SUS, things were going really well, and somebody came to me, my boss came to me and said, it's looking good, Andrew. Could you also do this other service called SUS? Well, thanks very much. Thanks for the vote of confidence. We'll do it, but we'll do a lift and shift rather than a rebuild, just a lift and shift. Now, actually, if Ed was here tonight, who runs the service today, heard me say it was just a lift and shift, it would be, Gary would be fending him off. So again, it was on a bespoke version of Oracle, and we had to migrate that from Oracle to a supported version of Oracle, and then migrate, forget how many terabytes of data from one data center to another. It was a big undertaking. So what did it cost? It took 100 man-years from inception to 1 year's service. Can anyone remember what it took on Spine 1? 15,000, yeah. Requires just over 100 commodity servers. I think there were about over 3,000 in Spine 1. And the release costs are less than 0.1% of previous release costs, and we save £26 million every year because of the new service. And there's a team of about 30 people actually running it. Now, I have to say at this point, BT do get a lot of stick, but they ran a stable service. We had the fortitude of 10 years of advancement in IT and different ways of doing things. I think we would agree that we weren't the best customer, and we could have done better and been more intelligent about it. Does it work? Yes, nearly like-for-like functional replacement. What do I mean by nearly like-for-like? So, if I take CIS as an example, we were coming very, very close to go live, and we had to go and speak to the users and say, actually, we don't think we're going to deliver everything on time. And you can imagine the uproar that happened as a result of that. So this particular piece of software supported 10,000 managers in the NHS, and we had to go and speak to their community and say, well, we promise that we will deliver the main functionality you need to run your service. This other stuff we will deliver on a heartbeat basis, and you will get that very, very quickly after delivery. It's a lot of talking, a lot of handshaking and assurances. They agreed to it. So we went live with something like 67% of the functionality in CIS. To this day, we've delivered 68% of that functionality because they've seen the delivery and the service change so much that actually the problems that remaining percentage was delivering is no longer needed. Actually, they've seen the benefit of the other things that we deliver and the other features that add more value than that old stuff. So it has changed their perception and the way that they are thinking. So 99.99% availability since go live. Over the last 18 months, that has been at 100%. Raman, is that right? Yep. Accessing over 2 billion records. The NHS waits 800 working days less each day as a result of Spine. Now, I know that's a flippant remark. It's some clever calculations saying how much more quicker Spine is than it, but that actually makes a difference to the NHS. So I was speaking to a consultant, an A&E consultant, a month or so ago, and he said to me, Andrew, if you can save me 15 minutes of my day, I can spend that time with patients saving lives. So it's a real difference. And we've replicated this approach across the DDC. So where did the DDC come from? It came from a program called Spine 2. So what did we learn? What did we learn? If you build it, you run it. So don't run away from any decisions. We had very, very interesting, full and frank discussions with architects within NHS Digital, and there was a falling out at some point. They went their way, we went ours. The point was, we felt that they were running away from decisions that they wanted to make. They didn't have any skin in the game because they'd be on to the next thing that they were designing. This is something that we have to live with day in, day out, night and day. So the decisions that we make, we've got to live with them. Invest less in predictions, prepare for them to fail. Learning is absolutely everything. And if you fail quickly, that's even better. So one of my heroes, Deming, one of my favourite quotes is about reducing variation. And I'll show you a little video a bit later about reducing variation and keeping things less complex than you really have to. Build the right thing, but also, build it right. So engineering principles, very, very strong engineering, but also build the right thing. Make sure that it adds value. Talked about the gold plate. You've seen it on the wall. It is real. Keep this team small. Scale is made by splitting problems across teams. And I think today we have 5 or 6 tribes. Because we're scaling up so much now, we're bringing in affinities and trying to bring things together like data services or identity and access management. We follow a loose Spotify model, so we've picked the things that we think will work for us. I would urge you to do the same. So don't just think, oh, Spotify, it's worked for them, it's worked for others, we'll use it ourselves. Just pick the things that will work for you. Right, okay, so I mentioned complexity. So we work very hard to get things to work smoothly, make sure that there's a nice flow from one side of the board to another. But you change one thing, and actually the whole thing can go to pot. Change one thing, it becomes an absolute nightmare. This is just 2 pieces of metal stuck together with a hinge. You bring in human behavior and human thinking. It's 10 times worse than this. So that's around complexity and flow. We've also adopted lean quite heavily. People talk about agile a lot, but I think a lot of the time people really mean lean. This is the size of one of our business cases. It's funnier than that, honestly. So seriously, if you've worked in the public sector before, you know that business cases can be hundreds of pages long. There has to be 3 business cases, a strategic outline case, an outline business case, and a full business case. And all that process can take up between 18 months and 2 years to actually approve. So for me, delivering to a deadline that was probably 2 years away, the 2 things weren't going to meet. So I'd probably have a week to develop something and get it live. One of the things I did, I found out that actually our department had the ability to sign off small business cases, business justifications. Actually, and those were only a few pages thick, which I thought absolutely brilliant. So I produced a business case and got things moving. 5 business cases later, all at 4.99 million, I got called to the Cabinet Office and Treasury to account for my sins, because actually I'd broken the process and they wanted people to go through their process, but they also wanted people to deliver. And I was like, well, do you want me to stop or do you want me to carry on? They wanted me to carry on, but they still gave me a bollocking for going around the process or working the system. Actually, one of a nice thing that's come out of that is now that the Cabinet Office and Treasury have noted that there's a need for a different type of business case. now. So as a result of me being naughty, we don't see the business cases that you see on the screen today. I've no idea what Trump's doing there, but that's one of Gary's slides. So lean startup, come with an idea, think about what value you can deliver in a short time scale. So say 3 months. Let's invest in that if we think it's the right thing to do. And at the end of that 3 months, if we've made some value, then great. We can then go on to the next stage if there is a next stage. So this is our new work request process, which follows that process and that model. So a request comes in or an idea comes in, it is handed off to a product owner in the NHS, who would have thought? And they have the responsibility for moving it from left-hand side of the board to the right-hand side of the board. And they work with the business or the program that are interested in taking this idea forward. They make sure that, number one, they've got some money. Number two, that it's going to add value. And actually, it's not going to sit on the shelf doing nothing when it's released, because you'd be surprised, not just in the NHS, about how much IT is delivered and never ever used. Look at Word. So that's the process we go through. That then is picked up and put on a backlog of work to do by the different tribes. Each of the colours cards are different tribes, and they only go out 3 months, because we can be sure what we're going to deliver next month. We're sort of sure about what we're going to deliver in 2 months. 3 months, it's a bit iffy, but we think it's right. We don't plan much beyond 3 months. Collaboration, absolutely, we need to work more collaboratively with everybody in NHS Digital. When we started this journey, we were an assurance organisation. We went round with clipboards, chasing Stuart, saying, have you done this? Tick. Have you done that? Cross. And actually, that wasn't a great way of working. And I found out because they came with their clipboards to me saying, have you done this? And I said, I don't want to know. Don't want to know. Don't be a problem at the end of the process. Come and help us deliver it. Roll up your sleeves and get dirty, get on and help us deliver this thing. So very important to do that. It still takes a bit of a challenge. People do revert to their past behaviours, but I think we've moved a great deal way forward from where we were. The Legend of Spine 2. So one of the things that we do, we want a learning environment. I've mentioned learning before, but it's not just about learning from your mistakes, it's about enjoying yourself as well. So we have a number of hack days, we have a number of hack weeks, and this is a chance for the developers, not only developers, but product owners, BAs, the whole team to get together and work on something that's totally different. And the Legend of Spine 2 and the picture of well, it's actually a raspberry tart, not a pie, because that would have but you wouldn't know it was a raspberry pie then, would you? So that's given the game away. So the Legend of Spine 2 is basically the raspberry spine. See what we've done there?
Ignore the switches underneath, they aren't part of it.
So we got some missing there. Somebody nicked a raspberry spine from the middle here.
No, there never was one in there.
Right, okay. So this was created as part of one of our hack weeks. Originally, actually, it was Raman. Raman, do you want to speak about the raspberry spine very quickly, because we're running out of time?
Right, okay, so during one of these hack weeks, we... come right, just right, come right. Okay. So one of our engineers, who's sadly not with us anymore, came up with the idea. He said, "Oh well, we could get this running on Raspberry Pis, because we'd already got it running on a laptop, so that's what we were using in our development environment." So we're thinking, well, how can we prove this is a really scalable system, not only upwards but downwards as well? And the idea was then, okay, we could get it working on Raspberry Pis, surely. And we did. We got it working, and we put on the real software that runs on the Spine. It's the same software. I think it's a few versions behind now, but and it's using the same database technology at the bottom. So the bottom layer is the databases, and then the top layer. So it's in the same kind of structure that the real Spine is organized in. And it was a really good learning experience as well for the engineers involved, because we have this constant movement of people through our team, which keeps fresh ideas coming. It also means that people got the idea of how it was put together and could have a real go at taking it apart and breaking it and things, which you wouldn't want them to do on the real thing, obviously.
Okay, thanks, Raman. This is actually version 2. So as you can see, it's on a nice spine-shaped board. Actually, it was in a pasting board, the first version, which we used to carry around in a big suitcase. But this is much more amenable to pleasing to the eye. So that is just one of the things that we've done. So where do we want to go next? We've sort of achieved a lot. We are scaling. We are competing in the same market as a lot of big companies in Leeds. So we've got a challenge, as they have as well, about recruiting people. We did win so if you recall back to the video, you'll see Graham talking about his role. I think there was a sign saying the award-winning SUS Plus. So that project won the Best DevOps Project Award in the public sector. So we want to do more of those sorts of things again. So this is our plans for the future. Has everyone heard of vMost, by the way? Nobody's heard of vMost. Oh, yeah, 3. Stuart 4. vMost is a really, really good way of thinking and prioritizing, making sure you're doing the right thing. Right, I recommend that as a really good talk for this event. So high level, vMost stands for Vision, Mission, Objectives, Strategies, and Tactics. So at the high level, that's our vision, that's our dream of the future. And we've pitched ourselves against other public sector organisations because we thought that was more achievable. And then our missions are then below. So attract and retain great people, which I said, which is the challenge that we've got in Leeds. Be creative and collaborative. Provide robust and secure solutions. Only deliver those things that provide value and provide the best engineering and best platforms. So for me, that is what we plan to do over the next 12 to 18 months. In addition to delivering a national citizen ID platform so that anybody, any citizen in England can then get access to their medical records, whether they be with GPs or with a trust. The other thing is data services platform, which is going to be one of the big data platforms for the NHS in the next 12 months. So those are the two big projects that we'll be working on over the coming 12 months. So, in conclusion, I'm going to repeat everything I said, or you could just ask me some questions. So thank you very much.